Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kelly, and I'll be the host of today's webinar, The True to Force Difference, an introduction to True to Force CRM and BI solution. Today's session will be recorded and sent to all attendees, so feel free to share it with your colleagues. If you have any questions during the presentation, please enter them in the question and answer panel below, and we'll get to those at the very end. Today's presenter is Ryan Elliott, Senior Application Engineer here at True to Force. At this time, I'm going to turn over to Ryan for the presentation.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. So as Kelly mentioned, this is an introduction webinar. What differentiates Tour de Force from other CRM and BI solutions? And I want to set the agenda for today. So briefly, I want to talk about what we're going to be doing, and then we'll jump right into the demonstrations. So we're going to review what sets Tour de Force apart from typical CRM and BI solutions on the market. We'll discuss the flexibility and extensibility of Tour de Force today. And then what you're going to see is a combination of Tour de Force Web and Tour de Force Desktop. Now, we do that for a reason. Most of the companies we work with have an outside sales force and an inside sales group, and ultimately we want to make sure that we can provide both groups with sufficient and effective information when they're using Tour de Force. So you'll see both flavors of Tour de Force as far as user interface goes today. So what makes Tour de Force different? Why are we different from other solutions on the market? And you go to people's websites and you talk to vendors and you hear this all the time. Well, what makes you different? Why are you special? And quite honestly, the slogan says it all, but you get more than software when you work with Tour de Force. You get a partner who delivers a solution. And ultimately, we do that based on the bullet points you see on the screen. The extensive experience we have in wholesale distribution manufacturing, between our consultants and our CEO, in our group that works in our office, we've got a combined probably 40 or 50 years of experience in the market. In discussing distribution, understanding manufacturing, understanding business process. We have implementation plans that are specifically designed for the companies we work with. We don't do a one-size-fits-all or a shoehorn approach with our implementation process. We have designed each process for our customers to match their business plan. And that's something that we're very proud of, because we want to make sure that the nuances and the differences that you have in your company are shown through the implementation process. We've got direct integration to your ERP system. So for those of you that are on the phone that may be Epicor or Infor or any of the other ERPs on the market, we've got over 50 different ERPs that we integrate to that allows us access to actionable intel that you can get on your phone, you can get on your tablet, you can use at your desktop. It's information that's vital to your daily routine, but you can't always get it from an ERP system. So those are some things you'll have access to. And then quite honestly, we just deliver more than you'd expect from a typical CRM system. And that's something, again, we're very proud of, because we want to make sure that our customers get everything they need from one place. And you'll see that one of the slides coming up in terms of islands of data and consolidating information. So that's just a little bit about what makes us different. Now, how do we do that? What are some other things that we do? And we focus on user adoption for a number of reasons, because you'll hear in the market space of CRM that user adoption is always an issue. And yes, that is something that does come up, but there's ways that you can combat that. And we've come up with 5 different topics here in terms of the ways we combat user adoption. And we make sure that the software fits the users that are using the system. Having executive and management commitment to the customer management initiative, the buy-in from the management team is absolutely critical to user adoption. Being able to easily put in data into the system, see the information, be able to access the information in a timely manner. Those are all things that we do very well and help provide information to your reps. Creating values for everyone, everyone in the company. Is it beneficial to use Tour de Force for the inside sales group? Is it beneficial for the accounts payable person? How do they gain benefit from Tour de Force? Those are all things that we offer and do, all the way up to the CEO and owner. What are the things that you would get out of Tour de Force that are important to you? Going back to the implementation methodologies, we have strong proven methods that, again, our consultants have been in the industry for quite a while. They've been doing this. They understand. They go through the process with you. We walk through and understand what it is that you're really trying to accomplish. This isn't a, well, we're going to tell you how you're going to do business process. This is a, let us listen to you. Let us understand what you're looking for, and we'll provide you with the best recommendation for that process. And that's something that we do very well. And then, quite honestly, just having the right resources involved in the implementation. We provide you with a project team from Tour de Force, and we request, depending on the implementation plan, that you have a project team as well. And the reason we do that is we want to make sure that you have that buy-in from your group, that we have all the facts involved when we're talking about your team and understanding the nuances and understanding what it is you really need out of a system like Tour de Force. So those are just some things to think about. Those are some things that, when you look at CRM and you look at business intelligence, what are the things that are beneficial to your group to help adopt a system better? And those are things I'd encourage you to think about throughout the process today. And then we talked earlier about islands of data. Some of the things that we do very well are in relation to consolidating information. And three biggest challenges that most companies face are in relation to a lot of that level of detail where you're trying to consolidate details into one place. So you look at the graph there on the left-hand side and you see, creating a single view for customer data and information, eliminating the islands of information, being able to drive insight into their decision-making processes or how we're going to market to them or how we're going to access the information that we need to be able to understand the market better. That's the integrated business intelligence. And then, quite honestly, gaining cooperation, user adoption, being able to get processes in place using a system like Tour de Force that allow you to better adopt the system and improve your efforts. So, those three things are industry standards as quoted there from the benchmarks against best practices in optimizing CRM performance from the Forrester report. I'd encourage you to take a look at it online. I'm not going to go into too much more detail on this, but the reason I really wanted to talk about it is because a lot of people will tell you that they're different, but they won't go into the details that we will and help explaining what we can do to help you and how we've experienced this in the past and what the best practices are. So just something there to think about. The integration is something we've touted. We've talked about it quite a few times now. Now, how do we do that? How do we bring information into Tour de Force from another system, from an ERP system, from an Excel file, from wherever? How do we provide you with information? We do this with our connector. It's a unique piece of Tour de Force, and we've been using the connector for over 15 years now. It's something we've built over time to build out with ERP systems. And really the reason we've done this, and it's not just to map data points and to duplicate what you've already gotten in the ERP, it's to take the information in the ERP and make it yours in a way that's more understandable, easier to report on, and stuff that you can take action on. And when you look at the connector and you look at the details there, especially about what we can do with the data, including calculating values, doing product manager rules, understanding what your splits are for your orders, product modifiers, those are all different pieces of what we can do with the data once we get it. And the big benefit to that is there's almost an endless supply of different things we can offer you with that connector, especially with the integration to an ERP system. And we mentioned earlier, we've got over 50 different ERPs we've integrated to over the years. There's a list of those on our website, but pretty much all of the Epicor and Infor products on the market today, Tour de Force has a default connector for. The Dynamics products on the market today, some of the bigger JD Edwards and Oracles and SAPs, we do have connectors for all those as well. So just think about that the next time that you're looking at CRM or you're looking at a way to integrate and you go, well, you know what, Tour de Force said they can do that. And when you look at our site and you look at our webinars and demos, you're going to find from a customer testimonial standpoint, from a webinar standpoint, we back it up. We talk about it, but we back it up. So again, the things we integrate to before we do any training with your reps, invoices, contacts, quotes, orders, notes, invoice lines, inventory, and accounts. Typical things that you would expect to find in a CRM system that you would want to use to your advantage. And that's ultimately what we pull when we do our connector runs. Now, we don't just have to pull from your ERP. There are additional things that we can pull from other systems, third-party systems like construction bid boards, phone systems, shipping systems, like UPS Worldwide Ships, an example of a system we've pulled data from in the past. And it just marries up to the data that we pull from your ERP system. So think about this as a hub. You look at the gears there, and it's us churning the data for you and providing you with fantastic information at your fingertips. And we run the connector nightly and throughout the day. So, I mean, not only can we provide you with a nightly run of consolidated information, but we can provide you with incremental updates throughout the day for orders and quotes and things of that nature as well. So keep that in mind as well when you think about the connection to your ERP and how you'd like to be able to provide more information to your folks that are in the field. And lastly, some two-way contact and two-way quote-to-order processing that we do. There are certain ERPs, especially in the Epicor and Infor world, that we do two-way processing with. We also do this with Tribute and TrueLinks, but in terms of being able to create a quote in Tour de Force, get customer pricing, provide that information to your customer, and then even create an order in the ERP. That's something we do very well. We've done it for quite a while now, and it's something that a lot of our customers take advantage of. We also have a process for two-way contact sync, which means you can keep your contacts in line between Tour de Force and your ERP. But if you have one more layer to that with our Exchange Sync capabilities or our Google Business Sync capabilities, you can even have a three-way process that allows you to keep your contacts in sync between three systems. So again, something to think about that Tour de Force does that's a little bit different from the other guys, and something to think about in terms of what might be beneficial to you, your sales reps, and your company. So again, if you have questions on these, as Kelly mentioned earlier, we'd encourage you to put those in the question and answer panel, and we'll get to those at the end of the session. But at this point in time, it's really time to get into the demonstration. I want to leave a good 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A time at the end of the session today. So we'll spend about a half an hour or so in Tour de Force going through the basics, understanding what Tour de Force can offer you, and how beneficial it can be for you. So with no further introduction or ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the demo system. I mentioned earlier that we were going to look at Tour de Force in a couple different ways. Right now, we're going to talk about Tour de Force Web and how you can use this from any web device. And ultimately, the web device that you pick really does not matter. We can do this on an iPhone, on an Android device. We can do this from a tablet. And ultimately, Tour de Force resizes to the device that you're on. We've written it in such a way that it's fully extensible. HTML5 can work on any device and can be accessed from any internet connection. So as I scroll out here, you'll notice that it resizes to the device I'm on. And then ultimately, if I was on, say, a laptop, or in this way I'm on a Dell 2-in-1 tablet, it'll go to full screen mode and ultimately gives you access to information that's vitally important to your daily routine. Now, I'm logged into this system today as an admin. The reason I'm logged in as an admin is for the capability of showing you what's possible with Tour de Force. I want to also show you the structure of Tour de Force. How do we bring the data across? How do we set it up? What does it look like? What's the information? How do we get to it? And ultimately, we structure the system like you would in an ERP. We have the ability to set regions, territories, branches, the company as a whole, so that the information that you're accessing is information that's specific to you as a user and or specific to you as a company. And we pull the information over from your ERP. Now, we have the ability to use the methodologies for build to and ship to. I just did a demo this morning for a Profit 21 customer prospect that soon to be a customer. And we talked a little bit about structure and how they've got territories and sales reps, and they assign those to their ship tos and ultimately to their build to accounts. And I said, no problem. We can pull that in. We can segment the data however you see fit. Could be based on the account owner. Could be based on the person that sold the actual invoice or sold the product and got the invoice line. So we can pull the data however you deem necessary and ultimately structure it in a way that it's easy to use. We can also do a couple of other things. You heard me mention earlier on the slide something called product manager rules. You may have someone in your organization that is not necessarily servicing accounts specific to a territory or region. They're servicing all accounts for a particular product line or for a buy line or a product group or a vendor. And ultimately, you want to be able to track sales specific to that ID. But today in your ERP, there's no way to do that without taking it to Excel or exporting it out or taking some of their system. The nice part about Tour de Force is the product manager rules is a very common practice and allows us to give you the access to the information that you're looking for without having to calculate it. Again, I mentioned this and talked about it with our prospect this morning, and they said, well, wait, we do all of our reporting, but we got to take everything out. We got to pivot it in Excel. It takes me about a day or two. And I started showing some of the features and benefits of Tour de Force, especially with the alerts and notifications and the BI summary. And ultimately, they just looked at it and said, you just saved us 2 days worth of manual work to pull the data out of our system and put it in another system so that we can just report on things that you already automatically calculate. So I mentioned that not to boast about it. I mention that because that is something that is very common practice today, where a lot of customers don't know that there are places out there or software packages like Tour de Force that can do this type of integration work, that can provide you with information, eliminating a lot of extra manual labor when it comes to calculating value. So again, just something to set a baseline for what you're going to see today. Now, when you first log into Tour de Force, you've got access to things based on your permission sets. And when you log in, you're going to have access rights that we've set up with you as part of the implementation process. The daily summary is typically where everyone starts with their daily routine. They look at this and they say, what's my calendar look like? And if I go in and I say, you know what, I want to look at this monthly. I want to see what's going on. It's going to provide me with information about appointments. It's going to show me activities. It's going to show me tasks and things that are important to me that I need to use every day. And those are going to be the appointments, tasks, and activities. That's a typical process that you're going to go through. When I look at the appointments and I see that I've got a few on my calendar, I go in and I say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and open this appointment. Now, before I get to that, let me explain the appointment process and the task process with how it integrates to Outlook, Exchange, and Google Business, how this process works. So when you create an appointment in Tour-de-Force or a task, the information related to those is automatically generating an appointment or task within Outlook, or if you're using Google Business, Google Business. I'm going to stop saying both. Just synonymously understand that if I say Outlook and Exchange, that works with Google Business as well. But when I create the appointment, it automatically goes into my calendar. And the way that works is it goes out and it creates it for you, and now you've got access to it, and it's a two-way street where whether you make changes in Tour-de-Force or in your Outlook calendar, the information is going to stay in sync. Now, we typically at this point would get a question and say, well, what about pulling everything from my Outlook calendar into Tour-de-Force automatically? And the answer is we don't do that, and it's intentional. Now, it's intentional because if you're like me and you've got kids or grandkids or nieces and nephews or personal events that you have on your calendar that are intertwined with your business calendar, you don't really want those showing up in Tour-de-Force because it's truly a business system. And it's not linked to any accounts or any contacts or anything like that. So ultimately, we give you the choice. You have the ability to manually link those to Tour-de-Force, then they would show up in Tour-de-Force Web. But ultimately, we don't do it automatically because of that very reason, is you probably don't want certain appointments to show up on your business calendar that others may be able to see from a managerial standpoint. So that's a question that usually comes up, and that's why I answered it right away, because that's something we typically get asked. Now, if I open an appointment, it's going to be basic information that you're typically going to see in an appointment. It's got a subject line, it's got a location, it's got a start time and an end time. You have the ability to add attendees to that, so you can create a meeting request. And as you get down to the bottom, you can see the information here where you can even add notes. Now, when I click in here and it goes to full screen, one of the things we really take advantage of, if we can, is technology that you already have. So if you're using this from your phone or from your tablet, you have the ability to take advantage of talk to text. Now, that's something that when you start looking at your phone, even the folks that say, you know, I'm an old dog, I've been doing this a long time, I don't need technology to help me sell. What if we can give you the ability to not have to type anymore and put your notes in? What if we can give you the ability to use your car microphone to talk your notes into your activity or to your appointment that you're going to do anyway, whether you write it down on a notepad or you do it in some type of a text, you know, typing it out later on. And that's usually something that comes up in an outside sales training. And when we talk to those folks, they go, well, yeah, I use talk to text now because I don't like texting my wife, or, you know, I use talk to text now with my grandkids because they type all these messages and I want to keep up. And I'm guilty of the same thing. If my wife texts me or my son texts me, I talk to text back to him because it's easier. It's just so much easier to do that. So we take advantage of that. We absolutely will give you the access to be able to do that. Once an appointment is in the system, again, it updates on your home screen. You have access to it as well as in your calendar. And when you've done and you've created the appointment and you've done everything you need to do, one of the things that people ask are, well, when I'm going to that appointment, how would I know more about that account? How do I gain information that I may need to know before I walk in the door? A couple different ways to do that. From the home screen, you'd have access directly from the main setup there. There's an account name. Or if you're already in the appointment and you wanted to open the account to look at more information, you simply go to the header button and you open the account. Now, what this is going to do is provide you access to information you would expect to see. This is going to be information that's come over from your ERP system. So you've got your bill to and ship to IDs up there in the top right-hand corner. You've got address, phone number, fax number, things you would expect to see. You've got the next action step in this particular case. You've got information in the bottom that might be key to marketing. So is what customer class is it? What customer type? Are they a target account? You've got information for their weekly calls. So sales days Wednesday, we go there weekly. Next appointment, unfortunately, I didn't update it, but the next appointment was in March, so apparently I missed that. But the information's available to you right there on the account. Now, if you wanted to look at the last action item, you can certainly do that. You certainly can. You can look at the notes. You can see the information. You can see the action item. You can see that there was an on-site visit there where they talked about controls and drives, and there was a partner that went with you or a vendor that went with you on a joint call. You can see all that information, and that's all available from the account. Now, if you were looking at more detail and you wanted to see more information about linked emails or anything like that, the linked items tab is going to be your best friend because it's going to give you access to information that's related to that account. Since we take an account down approach in Tour de Force, everything related to lower levels, so contacts, opportunities, activities, they all roll up to the highest level, which is going to be the account level. So if I look at this, at this account, the information that's in here, I can look at contacts, I could go down and look at activities, I could look at emails, or if I wanted just a chronological order of events, I could even go and look at the all linked items here, which is going to show me everything related to that account or linked to that account in chronological order. So maybe I created an opportunity last week and I can see the notes, I can see the emails logged, I can see all the activities created. And when you start talking about that, now you've got a single source of information regarding this account. And that's just the CRM side. That's just the CRM activities and the emails and things that you've done. That's just access to things you've created in Tour de Force. What about the sales data? What about access to sales information? Absolutely, you can get that. So you see a sales data tab there at the top, as well as a reporting tab. You have access to our dashboards, so you could run a pre-call report and look at the customer analysis and see a rolling 12 or opportunities by sales stage or top vendors. All this information is stuff that would be coming from your ERP, maybe minus the opportunities. Maybe you're creating those in Tour de Force, but ultimately the sales information is something you already have. And we're just putting it in a state that's very user-friendly and very easy to use when you're on the road, especially when you're on your phone. Maybe looking at product group mixes year over year, or looking at accounts receivable balances. Maybe you want to know what the growth was from last year to this year, what the rolling 12 is. All those pieces of information can be captured on these dashboards. And again, this is an example, so you don't necessarily have to use it in the capacity that I have here. You don't have to have this much data on here. I just, again, for the realm of the possible and what we can offer, wanted to be able to provide you with the best look and feel possible for when you're looking at an account. So a true 360-degree view. And you've got open orders and open quotes. You've got access to item codes that are doing well and ones that are doing poorly this year. Slow growth items. Maybe that account had bought a bunch of that in the past, and you find out over the last year they really aren't buying these pieces and parts anymore. Maybe that's just warrants a phone call or warrants the product manager to jump on the horn with their purchasing agent and say, hey, you guys used to buy a ton of this TCB7 WMSW, 1/2. What happened? Oh, well, we switched to 3/8. But if you don't have that information, how do you know to ask? And again, it's just something that we do as part of what we bring in from your ERP. And then even marrying this up with all the most recent activities in the system. You see, I've got the one there from the 5th available to me. I can see that on the 5th, I created an activity and talked about control products and drives. So the information that you're going to have access to is priceless. I mean, it's going to be great info. You can use it from any device, and it's going to be related to the account that you're working on. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the only way you access the data. You can also access this from the sales data tab, which is really the more analytical view of what Tour de Force offers. It's a set of grids of information that are important. When you look at the data and you go, I want to know more about this account, and I want to see what their year-to-date growth, variances, and run rates are. Okay. You can load the account, go to this tab, and now you've got access to the growth, the variance, and the run rate. You can see the sales goal for that account there. You can see the percent to goal right now is at 58. Not bad for May. And then if you look at the annualized percent to goal, you can figure out that if you stay on pace the way you're going, you're going to be at 160% of goal. That's pretty fantastic. And profit looks like it's up as well. So not only did we look like we're going to reach our goals pretty well, but if we stay on pace, our profit number jumps significantly. So that's a good thing. That's information that, quite honestly, you look at that and you may have to calculate that, or you may have to have somebody else calculate that. And because we do it for you, it's part of our standard connection to your ERP, something you don't have to do manually anymore. You'd also have access to, the group summaries where you wanted to pivot your own data. Maybe I want to look at a product group sale, 3-year summary and see what's going on, what product groups are up, which ones are down. Those are all different things you can do with the system. Again, we're looking at the web interface that you'd access from a phone. So from looking at the data's perspective, you can do this from any device. If I needed to know before I walk in the door at ABEC that they're down in TC Bart's Biofarm, Sean, Swan sanitary parts and work valves, those are the 3 top things we need to talk about. I can even copy this information out and throw it into an appointment. That way it's right there on my calendar and ready to go. So when when you look at accounts in tour de force and you look at the information, truly what you're going to find is that full 360-degree view. You're going to see the orders, you're going to see the invoices, you can see the quote information. If I wanted to look at my open order list, I just jump to that tab and it'll switch over to the open orders and show me what's going on there. I mean, it's just key information that you need to know before you walk in and maybe get blindsided by something that occurred. Maybe you don't know that their accounts receivable balance is high, or you don't know that an open order is late, or you don't know that that quote is something they really were interested in last week, but because nobody called them, they didn't want to purchase it. These are all things you can keep ahead of. You can get ahead of the game. You can do a little bit of forecasting as far as what it is you need to talk about or what it is you need to do. So again, a full look at the account. You've got access to all that information direct from an appointment. You could either do it from the header where we were at here, or if I save and close this appointment, you could have done that all the way back on the home screen, right, just by clicking on the account itself. So not only could I do that from the appointment, I could do that from the home screen too. So makes it super simple for the users. I can get access to it. I can see the information. The other thing we can do with the appointment is ultimately it's going to generate an activity for me. So I'm done with the appointment. I leave the building. I want to convert that to an action item. So if I open up an action item, after it's been converted, it's a simple button push. Basically it says complete and convert, and it creates the activity for me. Now in the activity, I've got my different types that are controlled by the users, by the company. So you guys control what goes into the drop downs. Same with the product focus. And then ultimately anything that's on the activity screen would be controlled and set up by you as a company. You decide what it is that's going to be used, how you're going to use it, and the information that's going to be there. So makes it very easy for you to get access to data that's important to you. And you even have access to the notes just like you did on the other appointment screen, where you can go in and you can talk to text, and you even use some templates that we've got built into the system to give you access to things like there where you've got the project details, attendees, keynotes from the call. That way you're structuring their sales call reporting easy for them, and it doesn't take a lot of effort to create. So again, activity creation, super simple. We want to make it super simple intentionally. Shouldn't take more than a couple minutes to generate all this and get your notes in. And that couple minutes is going to save you hours at the end of the day. So you figure maybe you go on 7 to 10 sales calls a day if you're performing at a high level, and each sales call warrants a set of notes based on visiting a customer. And if you've got to wait till you get home to type that could take an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to get all that documented and noted. Well, if you're like me and you've got to go to ball games after work, or if you've got something, golf league or whatever, now you can do this throughout the day, get your notes in the system, and not have to worry about typing it later. Use your advantage, technology to your advantage, and not have to worry about typing it later. So get off my soapbox there for a minute about saving time, but ultimately that's what we want to do for you, to be able to provide you with an easy way to save time and access information quickly. And the daily summary, again, a great place to start. And from the daily summary, within a couple clicks, I can get anywhere in the system I need to go. It could be an account, could be a contact, could be an opportunity. I access that information very quickly from one area. Now, as we scroll down the screen, you'll notice I've got some visualizations here. This is information, again, coming over from your ERP system. As a user, I have the ability to set my value here, whatever I want to see. Maybe I want to look at sales and profit trends last year, and I want to look at it in a bar chart. I can do that, and then I can set my own default. So the next time I log in, that's the visualization I see. Again, it's based on user permissions. I'm accessing this as an admin, so I have a higher user level permissions. If I wanted to look at this by sales rep, maybe I want to look at this by account package, which is our definition of a sales rep. I can do that. Or I don't like a bar chart there. I want to look at a pie chart. I can do that and switch it over to a pie chart. Now I can see the information, and I can set that value as my default. The next time I log in, that's what it would be. And then that leads us into the alerts and notifications, things that are automatically sent to you. Maybe you want to look and you're a sales manager. You want to see how your sales reps are doing. Again, this is one of those areas where I showed a prospect this morning this information, and they said, holy moly, we've got to go into 5 different areas. We've got to export the data. We've got to do some calculations, and then we can present that to our users or to our sales managers or to whomever. I said, well, how long does that take you? Well, it usually takes a day or two. And we've accomplished that in a single click within Tour de Force. So think about that for a second with your reports and how you get data from your ERP and how you can calculate information. How long does it take to generate a value like you see on this screen, where you can see the branch details or the territory details or the information that you would expect to see very, very quickly when you're accessing the details within Tour de Force. And that's something that hard to put a price tag on that. When you start looking at it and you say, how much time does this save me? Well, it takes me 5 hours a day, 2 days a week to get reports out for people. Okay, what if we could automatically send that through the alerts and notifications to their home screen of their device, or even send it via email? And we're going to look at that briefly here in a minute. How much value is there in being able to get that stuff and maybe giving you 10 hours a week back of your time with not having to manually create those? And it's anything from sales data that you see here down into loser accounts that aren't doing so well, AR balance accounts. Maybe I want to look at my top AR balance accounts. Maybe I want to see what's going on. And because it's pulling back 20 and doing some calculations for me, it's actually going to pull back all the account balances where it's 60 or 90 days overdue, and it's going to give me the top 20 accounts that affect me. So in my AR total right now, Hexlux owes me 180 grand. Well, you know what? I want to know when their last invoice was. So let me go to Hexlux, and let me go to the sales data tab. And all I've got to do is click on the general tab. So within 3 clicks of the mouse, I can tell you the last invoice date for them and know exactly when they last paid us. I can see the last order. I can see all the information that I'd like to know because they have a high AR balance before I go have a conversation with them. Again, put the value on that. How long does it take to get that information from an ERP system? And you start looking at it and you go, within 3 clicks in Tour de Force, I can see exactly when they last paid us, their last invoice date, and what their current AR balance is. What kind of value is there in that? So again, great information, easy to access within a couple clicks, super quick, doesn't take long, very easy to get to. Then you start getting into other areas of the product. You've got quotes, you've got new accounts, you've got new activities generated in the last 7 days. How many do I got? Looks like I got one, but could be me that created it, could be anyone else that affected my territory that created it. So maybe you do have a product specialist, or you do have multiple inside sales rep touching the same account, and they're creating activities in Tour de Force. Now you can visibly see that information right there without having to make a phone call or without having to CC someone on an email. So all that information is available to you. We typically recommend 5 to 7 alerts, to start out with. And then as you get comfortable with the system, if you want to add more, again, this is realm of the possible stuff. So like the first 9 that are on this list are pretty typical alerts that a lot of people use. Branch sales, if you have branches, branch sales details, tail territory details, loser accounts, AR balances, top accounts, product groups, vendors, orders. Those are all things that are typical alerts that would go out to your sales force, that would go out to your reps. So those are pieces of information that are important. And then you've got access to some reporting. So not only just the customer level reporting, well, what about salesman level? Do salesmen have similar reporting? And the answer is yes, absolutely. What are their top accounts? What are their top opportunities they've got in their funnel? In their funnel. I was going to say pipeline, and I combine that with funnel. In their pipeline or in their funnel. What do they have by product group? What have they sold by vendor? What's going on in their territory? What kind of commission are they making right now if you wanted to calculate that in Tour de Force? What's a rolling 6-month trend in comparison to goal? What's going on with their goal information? Do they have some declining accounts that aren't doing so well? Well, Matt Quotek's sales is down $174,000. Was that one big project last year? Or is that a customer that just isn't buying from us anymore? And without maybe having that in front of you, how would you know? Then even getting down into activities and getting down into opportunities. All that information is available at the sales rep level as well. So some great details that I can access directly from my device. I can have emailed to me. Any of the reports and scorecards I'm showing you can be emailed. And I'm logged in as an admin. So when you think about other reports, what other kind of reports would be important to me as an admin? Maybe a high-level executive dashboard type scenario where I can see the company at a 10,000-foot view. Just quickly tell me what's going on, show me the information, and what is it that I have access to directly from my web device. So sales by month, I've got opportunities by sales stage. How are the reps doing? Kevin Smith's apparently having a great year this year. You can see product groups. You can see vendors. We can get down into inventory data, accounts receivable balances, what's going on by territory for the month, what's going on by account for the year. All these different things can be done in these dashboards, allowing you access to the information very quickly. And the same goes, just a couple different flavors, management scorecard, executive dashboard, whatever you want to call it. The information is going to be vital to what you're doing every day. Helps your planning process, helps you understand where you might have some gaps, helps you understand where you might have some holes. great details. Again, quarterly, monthly, year to date, whatever you want to look at, we've got access to it. This one even has profit on it. So great information. We can lock these down. They don't have to be automatically sent to every rep. They can be paired off and purposefully built and sent to individuals based on their permission sets. So that makes it easy. So these 4 reports I've shown you are all 4 defaults that come with the Tour de Force product. And then a couple things on the main toolbar here, then we'll jump into desktop and the Outlook toolbar and what things you can use that for. If I go to the search menu, this is my global search. A lot of folks want the ability to search for products. They don't necessarily have that, so maybe I want to search for valves in the system. Don't know the part number I need, but I know I need valves, and I know I need a 120/60. Can't remember what that part number is, so I'm going to go look at the 120/60s. And what it will do is then highlight what it is I'm searching for. And because of the way the connector is designed, the inventory data can be updated in our products table every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes. And the nice part is you're staying up to date on what warehouses have what products. You can see what the quantity on hand is. You can see what the stock price is. So all that information is available direct from your device as well. So being able to do a lookup on your own without having to make an inquiry to inside sales and wait half a day or wait a couple hours, there's a lot of value in that, especially when you're talking with a customer. They say, hey, do you have any of the 120/60 valves that have a 110/50 OEM? Absolutely. We've got 88 in stock. How many need? We need 5. Okay, well, we ship next day, so you can have it by tomorrow. Fantastic. And you'd have access to know that, quote that, discuss that right on the spot without having to make a phone call or an email to inside sales. You can search other things as well, not just products. I'm just showing you products, but you can search all the other items and records in Tour de Force as well. Then recent items is something that we use quite often, at least I do. It's your memory. What were you doing yesterday? What were you doing today? What was I doing this morning? Maybe you're going throughout your day and you get to the end of the day and you go, I forgot to put an activity in. Who was I working with this morning? And then you can go down to the appointment, or you can go down to the task, and you can see that information and go, oh, there it is. Let me go ahead and get my activity in. Or, oh, we were talking to DJ Johnson. I forgot all about that. I need to make sure I talk to him. Those are all different pieces of what we can do to make life more convenient for your sales reps. So again, great information to have access to. And then ultimately your favorites is important as well. The ability to provide access to things that you use or look at or make calls to all the time can be done in your favorites menu as well. Now that's basically Tour de Force Web in a nutshell. I mean, there's other features and functions in here that we'll save for another day. But in the interest of time, I want to take some time and look at Tour de Force Desktop and the Outlook toolbar. So with the 5 to 10 minutes we've got left, I want to jump over and talk about Tour de Force Desktop. And as we go through that, again, if you have any questions, please put those in the Q&A panel below, and we'll get to those at the end of the session. So if I jump over and we talk a little bit about Tour de Force Desktop, especially the Outlook toolbar, these are some things that you can do directly from Outlook without having to leave that will access Tour de Force on your local installer, on your desktop. And when you look at the alert, looks pretty similar there to what we had in desktop. The gist of this is that any alert that you create can be emailed out or show up in your home screen of your Tour de Force Web. So the nice part is any alert that's generated can automatically show up for you, can be sent to you. And then you look at this and you go, Ryan, you keep talking about functions. What can I do with an email? What can I do with a contact? How do I access it? What do I do with it? And when you're reading an email, quite simply, if you look at this and you see that it's logged in Tour de Force there, if I want to look at the details about the account for Chris Harbin, I simply go and open the account direct from here. And not only can I open it, but I can look at the same information that the outside sales team was looking at. So, I get an email from Chris Harbin. I know Bob Settle works with ABEC, and they work with Chris. He works with Chris Harbin, but maybe you need to see all the communication from an inside sales perspective of what's going on. Go to the CRM details tab. I see all the contacts, opportunities, activities, all the emails logged, everything in one place. Going back to eliminating those islands of data, all accessible in one place. I can go look at the data. Or maybe I want to look at the sales information instead. I can absolutely do that. Right there in my account, I can look at the information. If I wanted to roll this up, have all the bill twos rolled up to one, or all the ship twos rolled up to one bill two, I can do that. Simply click a button and it rolls everything up. And if I do that, what you'll see there on the left-hand side where it says ABEC, now it says bill to Acme ABEC, and it's rolled up the goals, the sales data, and everything else into one area. Then ultimately you'd have access to be able to do attachments. We do have document storage and the ability to do attachments. You can create action items from here. You can do templates from here if you needed to send an email template or some type of a printed document template. So all of that is accessible direct from one click of the mouse in an email, and my second click gives me access to anywhere in the system. Now you can take action and view information as well direct from an email. Maybe I want to view all of the opportunities that are related to Chris Hardman. I can do that. It's going to show me all 5 opportunities that I've got in the system in relation to Chris Hardman, or 6, excuse me, that he's linked to. If I wanted to open one of these up and just simply look at the activity, or look at the opportunity information, I can do that. It's like this is a public bid job that he's related to. It looks like he and Barry Murphy are linked to this one. And now I can look at the details of this opportunity. I can see the amount, close probabilities. I can see my sales stage that, again, all configurable during the implementation process. All things that you can change and decide what you like to use, what you don't like. But ultimately, we give you access to that direct from your main toolbar and direct from here. I mean, it's super simple to use, very easy to access the information. My global search is there. My recent items and favorites are available to me. And this big old thing called the Info Center. And the Info Center is where a lot of people spend their time, especially when they're in office, because ultimately it's a hub for all the information that's important to you. So that could be reporting. So I could load up my BYOR viewer or my reporting viewer, and my executive dashboard loads. Same thing I was looking at on my device. Or it could be the BI summary. I want to look at all the sales data across the whole company, but I want to look at it in more of an Excel style analytical view. Absolutely. You can do that. Maybe I want to look at some group summary analysis on item codes across the board that are doing poorly this year. I can switch over and look at that view. Basic year-over-year view of item description based on sales year-to-date, last year-to-date, growth, run rates. All those things are calculated as part of this process and give me access to the information right there within my BI summary. Now I've got access to 18,000 different items that we sell as a company. And I can see the ones that are doing well. And if I switch this view to say basic year-over-year sales, it'll then show me the ones that are doing poorly. So the nice part is you can easily set these values and save the information and access the details direct from your any device that you're accessing. And then ultimately, if I'm on a desktop, I can even do it there. And I can look at this view and say, hey, these are the item codes that we're not doing so well with. And if I wanted to drill into that and look at the detail of it, I simply click on the plus sign. Now I can look at the details of that. There's the product group it's related to. Maybe I want to look at that by account. Sure, I'll look at that by account. Which accounts aren't buying that right now? And I can look at the accounts that are struggling this year. So there's 3 of them that are buying that. Looks like one of them had sales of 78,000 last year. This one's got 118,000, and none of them have bought it from us this year. So that Alliant product is down because 3 customers aren't buying much from us anymore. Great knowledge to have. Took about 2 seconds to get to it. So again, something to think about when you're evaluating and looking at systems like Tour de Force. Overall open orders are available, quotes are available, everything's available direct from here. I can access anything from there, looking at information. And that gets into a couple other things. Maybe you want to look at, maybe I want to look at all of the activities in the system and be able to sort and group that. I can do that too. Maybe a sales manager wants to look at all the action items. I want to look at, say, all the on-site visits. There's all my on-site visits. Or maybe I want to look at all of my demos that I've done with my on-site visits. I can group that. I can expand it. Now I've got a system that very easily allows me to look at the data that I want to look at. Or if I wanted to just group it in general for everything based on activity type, now I can see that. I've got all kinds of different activity types in here. I can look at demos, general customer relations activities. There's a bunch of those in there. You can do the same thing with any of the different options in Tour de Force. Maybe that's opportunities you want to look at, and you want to look at a pipeline, or you want to look at a grid view of all of the opportunities that are related to you as a rep or as a user. I go down, I look at my sales pipeline report that's grouped by sales stage. Maybe I want to look at close probabilities that are of a certain value. I've got 4 different sales stages. Well, I want to look at one of the ones that are in the quote stage. Those are the ones I want to see. So I can say, let's filter that. I just want to see those. And I want to see the ones that are 80 or 90%. So from a planning perspective, now I know that we've got to get some stuff in stock for all these opportunities that are probably going to close soon. They're very likely, or the PO's been received already. And you can see that. And again, it took all of a couple seconds to filter and sort that information. So I guess really what I'm trying to get to within this introductory demo is to tell you what's possible, show you a few things that pique your interest, or that maybe you haven't seen before, or maybe you haven't considered when looking at a business intelligence or a CRM system like Tour de Force, and ask questions. See what fits, see what works for you. So I mean, I guess at this point, Kelly, it's probably a good time to transition over to the Q&A portion of the session. We've got about 12 minutes left according to my watch and my clock there, and well, maybe 13. I apologize, and probably a good time for some Q&A.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ryan. I do want to remind everyone that we will be sending the recording of this webinar out via email, so be on the lookout for that. Ryan, you must have did one heck of a job, because we actually do not have any Q&A that came in. Is there anything else that you want to include?
Sure. Just, we're going to actually be, for those of you that are Epicor customers, we're actually going to be at Insights coming up in Nashville. So if you're interested in talking to us in person, I myself will be there doing a presentation on the Tuesday. I believe that's the 24th. Kelly, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the 24th. But I'll be doing a presentation of Tour de Force again. So if you have any questions or you want to meet in person, stop by the booth, have a conversation. Our CEO is going to be there. Our Chief Operating Officer is going to be there. So you can ask us anything. Come up, stop in, say hello. If you want to catch us after the show for an adult beverage, you'd be more than welcome to do that as well. So if you have any questions, I'd encourage you to take a look at our customer testimonials. We've got quite a few on our website. Website has a new look and feel to it as well. Great information, easy to navigate, and quite honestly, if you have any additional questions after that, you can contact myself or even Trent Thompson, our Director of Sales. So that's what I'll leave you with. Stop by the booth if you're going to be at Insights Conference. There's other conferences coming out, the P21 User Group Conference and others that we'll be attending this year. So I'd encourage you to visit us and stop and ask questions.
Absolutely. And to add to that, Ryan, you are correct. Our session is Tuesday, right after lunch. We will be at Insights. It will be booth 34 and 35 for those of you who are interested stopping out. So again, thank you to everyone for spending the afternoon with us. Oh, actually, I think, yes. Remember that the recording of this webinar will be going out today. So I did see that question was just asked. So you should get it before end of business day today, if not first thing tomorrow morning in your inbox. All right. Again, thanks for spending the afternoon with us, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.